Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of week 14 of Level Up Your English with me, at Kathleen Davies. So, again, you're going to see me adjust my hair at every single live, so I'm sorry, bear with me. Again, curly hair doesn't like to do what I ask it to do. So today, this is the second edition, the noon edition of today's topic, which is we're continuing business English basics. And today we're talking about communication in the workplace. So what we're going to be talking about, much of the stuff you've probably heard before, but my goal is to talk about it from a different angle and in a little bit more detail than you've probably heard before, just so that you can get an understanding of not only what we mean when we say certain things, but also to get a background of either why it's like it is or how it developed, which is actually why. So to get a background and therefore a better understanding of what it is we're talking about and also how to go about it, what we mean when we say X, Y, or Z. So that's what the goal of today is. So I do suggest that you always listen to the days live that you didn't get to go to. So if you were at the midnight live, listen to this one. If you didn't get to go to if you're here now, listen to the midnight live of that day. And I also recommend going back, starting at the first episode, because the way I structure these lives is that they build on each other. And even though the topics seem disconnected, I'm delivering them to you in this particular order for a reason. So go back and watch them one by one from the beginning. Get yourself caught up, because a lot of what I talk about later on, these are the foundational ones, and the one before is the foundation to this, etc. So really, I suggest that you do that, not just because I want you to watch them, but there's a lot of value in them individually, but also as far as it's all accumulative knowledge. And again, I've designed it specifically to go in this order. So there we go. So, and one thing I never remember to do is don't forget to like the video. Tell me what you think. Click the thumbs up or thumbs down, hopefully not thumbs down, but click let me know what you think about the video with the icons. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on anything. You get notice when I go live. And also tell me what you think in the comments. Ask me your questions in the comments, because I'm here. This is the sole reason why I'm coming live, is so that you have a place to come. At least every Monday, twice a day at midnight, when Sunday turns into Monday, I'm here live to answer your questions. At noon Eastern time on Mondays, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm coming at these times because it's the best I could figure out that would allow the most people the easiest access. So if the times don't work for you, let me know in the comments. Tell me about this so I can make this the best resource for you. I'm coming here live for you. So ask me your stuff. Tell me your stories and let me know what you're looking for, and also what you're getting out of these videos, these live streams. Because if what I'm delivering to you isn't giving you any value, I need to know that so that I can make this of value to you. And if it is bringing you value, let me know that too, because that's always nice to hear. And it also lets me know that, okay, this is the track. This is what people need right now. So keep doing more of this. All right. So I can't do this effectively and be effective in my communication if it's a one-sided communication. So practice your skills. And if you need to, write in your native language, if you're afraid of your English that I won't understand it, I'll use a translator and we'll communicate. We will definitely communicate. So anyway, here we go. So session 2 of week 14 of these is, so again, we're talking about communication in the workplace, and what I'm going to focus more on the style of communication in the American workplace, not necessarily how you write an email, or not at all. I'm not going to tell you how to write an email. I'm going to tell you what Americans in the business world expect and why they expect it, and what our point of view is, what our mindset is as a culture. Now, again, this is an overall cultural characteristic or multiple characteristics. These are overall characteristics. You're going to find that things aren't always going to be this way in maybe the particular office that you're working with, or the particular people. There's, as in every culture, every office around the world, every work situation around the world, you're going to find that there are people who, work hard and take their job seriously, and other people who don't. So, but this is the cultural mindset of the American person in the business world. And a lot of what you're going to learn as far as business is concerned is in many ways how we conduct our lives as well. But again, as you'll see, our lives focus heavily around work. So naturally, there would be a spillover. So, all right. So I have 3 areas that I'm going to talk about today. And within that, there's 3 different points I want to make. So, and then it's 1 or 2 bonuses, things I came up with afterwards. So the 3 basic areas that I'm going to talk about today are, we're going to talk about the basic expectations in general when you're working with Americans in the business world. These are the basic expectations. Then we're going to talk about emails. What are the expectations when an American sends or receives an email? And then we're going to talk about meetings as well. And again, some of these points may seem, oh, I've heard this before, but I'm adding a layer of depth to them that you probably haven't heard. And even if you have, it's still from a different point of view. So it's still going to give you something you didn't have before. So, all right, here we go. Oh, and the last one, I did go on almost an hour, and I do gauge. I won't go beyond an hour unless I planned it and I warned you ahead of time. But this is such an important topic for us. Our work, and not just Americans, around the world, you work to earn a living. You work to make a better life for your family. You work for your survival. Your job is everything. If you don't have a job, it's really hard to um, not have your life spiral out of control. And so this is so important that's why I felt it was okay to continue. It's not a full hour, it's 50 minutes, 50. But anyway, so all right, so I've given you the 3 major topics for today. Basic expectations, expectations around emails, and expectations as far as meetings go. Now, we only have one more live before the end of the year, because I'm, as I mentioned in the midnight one, I'm working on creating a course for you, and it's an in-depth course. It's a serious-minded course, all about your fluency and walking you through I didn't say this in the last one, but it's all about walking you through my 4 pillars of fluency in English. And it, I still have a lot of work to do, so it's another reason why there's only going to be one more. But the holidays and all, and my goal is to launch it on January 2nd. So um, pay attention at the beginning of January for the news about that. And I'm offering for the first 10 people to register for the course. I, I don't want to give out all these details just now, but I will be offering a super duper entry level price that will never be offered again for this course. But I want to reward those 10 people who are just, really committed to your own learning journey, your own fluency journey, and reaching that goal of being truly fluent rather than just proficient in the language. And also for those 10 people who just truly believe in me and want to help me bring this course to the world. So there'll be all sorts of information about that in January, but I want you to know. And actually, I'll see if I'll put together a waiting list. And so you can get on that list. I didn't even think of this in the last one. I will put together a waiting list that you can get on, so you'll have first knowledge and access of when that goes live. So, all right, so next week we'll be continuing the business English basics, and we'll be talking about specialized vocabulary, which is another way of saying jargon, but it's jargon, but it's also um, stuff that you'll hear in the office and, in everyday doing business with people beyond the jargon. So anyway, all right, here we go. So basic expectations. Americans, when we do business, we expect you to be direct and get right down to business. And I'm not going to go into all the details of why. That's in the midnight one. And it is in other it's in the cultural live that I did a couple weeks ago. But I'll just list them out. So we're direct and we get right down to business, and we expect the people that we deal with to do so as well. We expect you to know what you're talking about. We expect you to know what you're talking about. And we like our messages to be short, to be sweet, and by that meaning exactly what we need to make our decisions, and delivered in a way that we can understand, that makes sense to us, and to the point. So we don't like a lot of language. Just tell me what I need to know to make my decisions, and we're fine. We're good. Okay. So just quickly about, like, all of this, if you notice, it's all being direct, and it's all getting to work right away. And as I've explained in many other places, the reason for that is that, again, when the United States of America was first settled, when people came from England and Italy and Spain and all the other places in the rest in what we call Europe, um, nobody expected that the Americas would be existed. They had no idea what they were. The thought was, the prevailing understanding of the world at that time was that you could go from anywhere, from Europe, travel across the sea and hit India. The world was expecting, those explorers were expecting to get to India. They were looking for a shorter, more direct trade route, rather than having to go over land, which was treacherous and took forever. They were looking for a better way to do business. And so, lo and behold, they bumped into the Americas, and a whole new world was opened up to the rest of the world. So, but, but when people started moving here, so in my area of the world, I'm in New England, I'm in Massachusetts. And so most the people who first came here were from England. And so when the people from England came here, they came here to um, to get away from all of the restrictions, all of the oppression. There was a lot of political oppression, religious oppression, all of this societal oppression. They were trying to get away from all of that in a culture that was locked in place. You were born into a place, and society at that time made it impossible, nearly impossible, to get out of that place. And you were constantly reminded of your place, and you were constantly kept in place. And so when this whole new world opened up, people started coming to have a chance at a better life. And so what happened when people arrived is that this was a whole new environment. There were so many things to deal with that no one in the world, except the people that already lived here, who, again, they were living in isolation. They didn't know, as far as I know, they didn't know about the rest of the world, and the rest of the world didn't know about them. And so they were accustomed to naturally their own environment. But I say we, I mean the settlers who came here. Arrived into conditions they had never encountered. Their conditions were a lot more more mild than what they encountered here. They encountered diseases they had never been exposed to, and whole communities were wiped out. So your entire focus as a settler in this new world was survival. And we did not have time to mess around. We needed to get our messages across. We needed to work together. We needed to do all of these things. We needed to know what the plan was so that we could make it through the day alive. And it sounds really dramatic, but it was dramatic. And so this is where our core comes from. And it pervades, as you'll see, it pervades everything we do. And so again, there we go. Everything is focused on being direct, concise, and filled with the knowledge that we need to get the job done. Okay, so those are the basic expectations. Now, if you come from a culture that is more based on developing relationships first and spending the time to get to know the people that you're doing business with before you get down to business, this is going to be a shock, and it's going to be difficult for you. I'm just going to take these off while I don't need them. I'm going to take them off and avoid the glare. This is going to be a shock, and it's going to be difficult to get used to. So you're going to need to practice it, okay? You're going to need to really, I like to do a lot of research beforehand as much as I can. When I was taking a trip to Monaco many years ago, I did my research not on the French culture, but on the Monegasque culture as well. I tried to learn as much French as I could, but I tried very hard to learn about the culture and the mannerisms and the way people interacted with each other and what they expected. And so do the same if you're going to be doing business with Americans. Watch as much as you can on the internet about how people interact. If there's a movie about Americans doing business in the American environment, watch it just to see how people react, what they expect. Remember that it's a movie, and it may be overly done or whatever, but um, you're still going to get that idea of how people interact. so that you can become familiar with it before you're placing yourself in that situation. Okay. So that's something I recommend. And yeah, there you go. So that's what in general we expect. Everything is about saving time, respecting time, because again, it's ingrained in us that time is not only money, that came later, but time could mean whether you live through the day or not. If you didn't, get your crops planted in time, they wouldn't be ready. They might not grow properly, and therefore you'd starve. Like, all of these different things. If you didn't get the cattle to safety or your farm animals to safety, if you didn't protect your crops before the storm hit, whether it's rain, sleet, snow, hail, whatever it is, if you didn't get your stuff protected in time, you could lose everything and not make it through the day. So it's just part of our nature to save time. And so that's another reason why we get right down to business, because we take care of business first. We know that things are done. We know that things are, that the job is accomplished and that we're safe. And then we can relax into getting to know you and thanking you for, all the different things that you've helped with, and really developing that relationship. So if you're coming from a culture that is not like that, do what you can to familiarize yourself with that concept and to try to emulate it, to mimic it, so that you're prepared when you then actually go out and do business in an American environment. And I have to do this when I'm learning Korean. And again, that is a relationship development comes first. There are, you know, it's the opposite. And there are many cultures that are the opposite of the way Americans work. And people think it's rude. And it's also, you find it difficult to transition to the American mindset. Americans find it difficult to transition to okay, let's develop everything first, get to know each other first and then do business. We find that extremely difficult because it just makes us so nervous that we're not going to survive the day or things aren't going to be taken care of first. So if you're dealing with Americans and they've come to your soil or into your culture and they're having trouble adjusting, just remember, be patient and understand that they're not being rude. They're thinking that they're respecting your time so that you can survive your day too. So, you know, this is also good then too to understand when Americans come into your space and don't quite fit in and are having difficulty. This is a great thing to remember as, okay, this is why they're having difficulty. How can I help them? So it's really a two-way street, as we say. Okay, so there's the basics. Now, when it comes to email, I'll get my glasses again. All right, emails. Again, you need to make them clear. They need to be concise, meaning not a lot of words and floweriness. We don't need it doesn't need to be a great production. We just need the information that we need, and we need it soon. Okay. So make them clear, make them concise, and make them free of emotion. So, and even Americans have to be reminded of this. It's so easy in the middle of your day. You have 12, I've got hot nails, and there's 1,200 things that you have to get done, and you're expected to get done. And, so it's like you don't have time to sit through these long emails and try to figure out what someone's talking about, try to figure out where's this information that I need. Make it easy on yourself and make it easy on your American counterpart to just give them in the first paragraph no more than this than 2 paragraphs. Tell us why you're writing. Obviously you can, say, "Oh, hello, how are you? I hope you're well." But you don't need to go beyond that. In fact, we'll shut down. Our brains will shut down if there's too much personal stuff. So, give your simple greeting and a wish that the person is doing well, and then get down to business. Say, "I'm writing you because," or "in response to your question, here's your answer." Just address it right away, address it head on, and give the critical bits right up front in those first 2 paragraphs. Then you can go on and give detail, but make sure that it's orderly and make sure that it's in in the right order. You start from your essential stuff, then put the next important stuff, and then work your way down to your conclusion, which is just the polite way. "Okay, I'm going to end it here, and let me know if you need anything," that kind of a thing. Even in that, keep that short. Keep it, I say, sweet, and by sweet I mean that it's geared towards the person that you're talking to and how they like to work, how they how they work best. Some people are more formal. I grew up in a pretty formal, with a lot of formality in many ways, and I tend to be that way anyway. I'm more. I don't like to intrude on your personal space. I don't like to, you know, I don't just jump right into all getting all the dirty the gossip and stuff about you. I let you tell me when you're ready to share more about yourself or whatever. So that's just me. So I tend to be more reserved, more formal, but you know, others are not, and others just, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Whatever, and they're much less formal. So, that's what I mean by sweet, meaning adjust it to the person that you're addressing. All right. And make it to the point. Again, get down to business, get the business done first. Then you can add the rest of the stuff later. Um, so let's see. And the other thing, yeah, there's 2 other things here for emails. Uh, don't try to be clever. Or fancy. I mentioned this in the last live I did, that I used to work with this one, and I'm going to say girl because she was just out of college, and she was new to the new to the world, to the business world and stuff, and she was happy and optimistic and just ready to get going, but she was so unsure of herself and so insecure in these surroundings that she wasn't used to a corporate world. She was used to, what did her parents ran a small store in a neighborhood, I think. And so she was used to a much more casual, friendly, down to earth. That might not be the right phrase, but casual, friendly. You didn't have to be, the professional level was just different. And so she was unsure of herself. And so she started using words that she thought fit in and that she thought made her look smarter and more sophisticated than she was comfortable with. But she wanted to prove herself. And so she was, using all these words and things. And it didn't fit her. And people knew what she was doing and they didn't treat her well. They, they came down on her and came down. I mean, they just distanced themselves from her. And so luckily she had a good boss who tried to help her out, tried to show her how to dress more professionally and act more professionally. And she would come to me to help her with her emails. Um, and so the thing that I really wanted to let her know is that it's fine to be yourself. So just make sure that you elevate who you are to fit into the situation that you're dealing with. So if you're dealing with a client who's going to bring in $40 billion to the company, then you need to not talk to them like they're in the pizza shop, or whatever it is. You need to address them with a little more formality, a little more respect and more professionalism. So it was fine, and we worked it through, and she just did well. She just, went on to do really well once she was able to fit into herself. And so, um, don't try to be someone that you're not, I suppose, is really what I'm saying. If you only have a certain level of proficiency in the English language, if you're insecure about your level of proficiency, don't worry about that. The best way to overcome that until you improve, and while you're improving, the best way to overcome your insecurity with the language is to make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you know what you're talking about, and make sure that you can explain it and bring it, communicate that you know what you're talking about. So don't try to get fancy with your words. Use what you've got, and communicate on the level that you're at, but find the right words that will communicate that you know what you're talking about. English is a language with um, tons of words. You have so many words at your disposal. English is a low context language, which means we don't take chances with you hoping that you'll understand what the context of the situation is, that, hoping that you'll put all these vague pieces together and then understand what we're talking about. We've got a word for all of it, really. Um, and so use those words, take the time, build your vocabulary, expand it, focus on the words that you'll need to do your job. Focus on those words. Don't worry about the stuff about, ordering lunch. Focus on the words that are going to help you project the fact that you know what you're talking about. And then as you learn more, use them. But don't try to be someone that you're not. Okay, that went on a little long, but again, it's so important, especially if you want to stand out. There are so many offices and so many working teams or companies where the culture is that nobody wants to rock the boat. Nobody wants to really stand out. So everybody uses the same terms and talks in the same way, and tries to sound as if they're so important in this whole bubble, but really they're just trying to get their paycheck and make it through the week, so they can just go relax and have a good weekend. But people can see through it, and so if you're in an office where this is happening all the time, then when someone comes along and they know what they're talking about, and they're able to communicate it quickly, efficiently, and directly, then you're going to stand out for a good reason. And people are going to forget about your language barrier. And because you're working on it, it will get better. And so then it won't be a barrier anymore. So don't worry about your language barrier, okay? That will come. Make sure you know what you're talking about, and make sure you know how to communicate that, okay? And then the other thing too is, you definitely, show the respect to the person that you're dealing with. Always use your manners. So you're going to need to do a little bit of research on basic English manners. And I would say look up Emily Post. There's a website, EmileyPost is her name. She's deceased at this point, but her family has taken over. And she wrote a book called Miss Manners. And so you will find out all you need to know about American manners if you check that out. Um, so anyway, you'll be professional, be polite, use your manners, but be yourself. Be yourself. Okay, and then as far as meetings go, and here's the thing. So this is what people expect. This is what Americans in general expect. They don't always respect this, but they expect it. And so if you follow this, um, then you will be noticed again for the right reasons. So first thing, be on time. Okay. I grew up where, you be on time because if you're late, you're on someone else's time. You're wasting their time. Okay. And you don't waste people's time. Okay. So I would rather be 3 hours early than 1 minute late because 3 hours early is my time and I can choose what I want to do with my time. But if I'm 1 minute late, I'm now wasting your time and I won't do that. So, that's important. Now, again, not everybody respects this, and people, I think because Americans, there's so many meetings, and oftentimes nothing really seems to happen in these meetings. Again, a lot of people like to have meetings because either they're required to have a weekly meeting or they feel that it makes them important, and I'm a good boss if I have a meeting, but there's no real need for the meeting. I can do it in an email. So, people can get jaded by this whole culture of having meetings. But if you show up, if you're on time, if you know what you're talking about and you bring value to the conversation, then you're going to get noticed for the right reasons. Okay. So be on time and don't just speak up. A lot of people will say, you know, how to get by in meetings, how to do well in an English speaking meeting is to speak up and contribute. But don't just contribute for the sake of contributing. Don't just contribute randomly, okay? Make sure that what you're contributing brings value to the project, to the goal of the meeting, that it moves people forward and it moves the project or the meeting forward to a solution. Um, again, Americans joke about how useless that meeting was, and we didn't accomplish anything. It didn't, there was no solution. We still don't know what we're doing. We joke about it, but you will get noticed if you are one of those people who accomplishes that and moves it forward and, somehow can draw out a conclusion from the meeting. So make sure that you're contributing effectively and that you're bringing value to the meeting. Okay. And finally, you want to be what I call strategically effective. So when you're first starting to attend meetings with Americans, and I think this is the case anywhere, but um, you're in this new situation, before you just contribute because you've been told you have to contribute, observe. Do a lot more observing than you do contributing at first, okay? Well, actually, all the time because new people come in and new teams are formed and there's different dynamics socially, people interact differently. So you want to really observe what's going on. You want to observe how people react to each other, how people act in how this particular group of people acts with each other individually, um, as far as, towards the project. You can tell how people feel about a project just by watching how they act in the meetings. And so, you really want to be observant and then take your observations. And then when you have something to say, so you've listened, you've watched what's going on, you know what they say the goal is, and you know what needs to be accomplished. You've come up with your idea, you know now how you want to present what you want to say. But now you need to take into consideration before you say it, okay, this person is closed off. This person doesn't like new ideas, or, whatever, but this person would be a good one to mention it to or to address during the meeting because that person is good at helping this other person to open up to the new idea. So I need to formulate my message and communicate my message in a way that this person will listen to me and then be able to present it to the others or be an advocate or whatever. So, because there's no point in addressing it to a person who's closed minded. If you're trying to get stuff done and you have someone in the meeting on the team who really doesn't want to be there and it just is closed minded to this, then that's a waste of your time. It causes you frustration and it doesn't get anything done. So that's what I mean by being strategically effective. Um, Learn to work with the people that you have on the team in the project, whatever it is. Find out how they like to receive things. Find out what ways, what approaches will help them to open up and become a better team player. Okay. You might have a great team. You might have a team that just loves solving this problem and they're excited about the project and this, that, and the other thing. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just say what you need to say. But if you have a difficult team, again, be strategic in whom you approach and how you approach that person or those people. And think about what you're going to say before you say it. Is really what I'm trying to say, I suppose. So, okay, and then there's a big bonus here. We're going to talk about this, like I said, next week, but jargon. You're going to hear it all over the place in an American business situation. So you need to learn what these different phrases mean. Um, and you need to know how people use them, but don't use them yourself. Please don't, because jargon, it started out, it had a good purpose, and in some areas it does. But for the most part, people who use jargon are insecure people who don't know what they're doing and they want to look as though they do. So you find your own way of expressing the meaning behind the jargon. And the example I used earlier was to circle back is a huge when you hear all the time. People are so sick of it, but they use it all the time anyway. And what it really means is that we need to talk about this again. So rather than saying, oh, we need to circle back on that, just say we need to talk about this. We still didn't come to a conclusion, so we need to come back to this and talk about it some more. So how about I have some free time on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Let's talk about it then. That puts that sets you up in a highly professional, highly committed light to the person that you're talking to. It shakes them out of this whole mind-numbing uh, mindset of, oh, jargon, jargon, jargon. People shut down when they hear jargon. So you want to wake them up. So don't use the jargon. Find your way to say it. Again, be direct. Get down to business. So jargon doesn't do that. What jargon says, if someone says to me, oh, we need to circle back on this, I'm going to say they need to look it up. They didn't do their job and they don't know what they're doing. So they're not ready to talk about this now. And they're dismissing me. And they're saying, get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you because this is just too annoying to me. So jargon really sets the wrong message, even though people think it sets the opposite message of what people expect it to say, to set. So don't do it, and we'll talk about that next week more. So, um, all right, these are the basics, and if you have any questions, again, put them in the comments and I will get back to you. I will either do a live about it, I will create a video about it, or I'll answer it right in the chat. So, in the comments. So, ask me your questions and let me know what you think about this. Was this helpful? Did you learn anything new? What was the most surprising thing that you learned? And we'll go from there. So we'll see you next week. Again, I go live at midnight. So when Sunday turns into Monday, 12 a.m. Eastern Time, and then also 12 p.m. Eastern Time, noontime. So I'll see you next week and just have a great one. And I really hope this helped. All right. Bye bye. We'll see you. Enjoy.